Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. We have a very special edition here, a non-normal, off-cycle, if you will, edition. We are talking Bears postseason press conference, and I just want to jump right into this. So today, without really any sort of announcement, I didn't hear any word of it, and I just happened to go to chicagobears.com, and it said press conference at 10 a.m. I was like, I didn't hear about any press conference. Maybe this is old. No, it was today. So they did a press conference with George McCaskey and Ted Phillips, and they were announcing what the plans were. And we were already getting reports that Chuck Pagano was going to retire, and they were going to retain Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. So we were all prepared for this, and the Twitter universe was furious. Would that be a fair assessment there?
Well, I think every fan across the board of the Chicago Bears is absolutely furious. And you know what, Sean, let me just say right off the bat, when I knew the press conference was happening, my expectations were low. We know how these George McCaskey, Ted Phillips press conferences go. We know what this team is like. But yet they found a way to be even worse than any of us expected. And look, I have three big takeaways from this. I'll get to those in a minute. What fans have really been wondering since that final play where Jimmy Graham caught the touchdown pass and ran to the locker room when the playoff loss was over, the big question was, okay, what's going to happen with Ryan Pace, the general manager, and Matt Nagy, the head coach? But yet this press conference, in my opinion, even though the main goal was to pretty much say we're bringing it back next year, we're keeping these guys around, to me, Pace and Nagy's portion of the press conference took a back seat in the shit show. The true source of just the foul-smelling feces of this whole ordeal were the two men at the very top, and that's George McCaskey and Ted Phillips. Listening to whatever the hell that was today, I was thinking to myself, this is a charter franchise. This is the Godfather of the NFL. This press conference is not some bad expansion Jaguars team or even the New York Jets. This is the century-old, supposedly proud Chicago Bears. And this press conference, I mean, we're not just talking about like Bears Twitter. They are a national joke right now. I am reading articles from the New York Post and other major outlets just calling this what an absolute joke. The Bears are a national joke. And it's not because they're losing to Green Bay 45-10. It's because the very, very top of this organization is just going out and just spewing this crap.
Yeah, I mean, there was one instance where, so they announced that they are keeping Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. And there was questions to George McCaskey is like, where he answers. And he was just like, well, I have to answer to the board. The board, I'm going to read you the members of the board. He is the chairman of the board, so he has to answer to himself. Virginia McCaskey, his mom. So far he answers to himself and his mom.
I have an alter ego on the board. I have to answer to him.
Ted Phillips, Brian McCaskey, Ed
part of the team.
Ed McCaskey Jr., Patrick McCaskey. He's basically answering to his family. It's like Christmas dinner. Who do you answer to? Well, I have to show up at Thanksgiving. Oh my God. What an asshole.
Friggin' Adams family.
What an asshole. And Ted Phillips, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. I should pull the actual quote, but somebody asked him about a winning organization, and he goes, well, from the winning team, you take away wins and losses, and what you boil it down to is the people. No, the winning teams are because of the wins. They're winning teams because they're wins. I don't care if the head coach and the general manager want to punch each other in the face, or the CEO or president and the GM want to punch each other in the face. I don't care, as long as they're winning games. There can be all kinds of animosity there. If they win a Super Bowl, I don't care. It doesn't faze me. I'm the fan. I don't care. I don't have to be in that uncomfortable room.
They kept going on and on about culture and how good it is. And, they try to make themselves out as, look at us. Look how proud we are. Fans of other teams and other teams would love to be us. Nobody wants to be you. You're in the worst possible spot. You're not bad enough to have a future. You're not good enough to be a Super Bowl contender. You are stuck in the very middle depths of football hell. Nobody wants to be you. And look, I get work environment is important and you don't want a toxic one, but you know what? You have to go beyond that. You have to go beyond, we all like each other. We all love football. We come together. We sing Kumbaya. We always ask each other, what'd you have for dinner last Tuesday? How's the wife? How's the kids? That right there goes to show that this organization settles right in the middle. They want to be just good enough at something where they don't have to do anything drastic and they don't have to do anything that's creative or over the top because it doesn't require them to do any more work or thinking. You're right in the middle. Oh, yeah, we're the Bears, what do other people know? I get hate mail, blah, 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 blah. We still get our money. Our value is going up, blah, 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 blah. We're 8-8, and they'll try to appease the fan by saying, hey, yeah, we're 8-8. I know you don't like this answer. I know you're holding us accountable. And they use that word accountable 100 times, but there's no accountability there. There's clearly not.
Ted Phillips said we have to be accountable. That motherfucker is the least accountable person in the history of accountability. Like, the least. He has been in that job for...
And it's funny because he's an accountant.
He has been in this job for, 20 years? 20 plus years? And they have done nothing. They have just been mediocre straight across the board. Like, that is, how... It is a Garpax too. It really is.
I have a full profile of Ted Phillips, the team under Ted Phillips as team president. And there's two other things after this I got to share that's really important. And I think it's one of my very biggest takeaways from this press conference. Number one, here's some key stats. 21 seasons as team presidents, 24 different starting quarterbacks, 15 at or below 500 seasons, 13 third or last place in division finishes, 10 seasons with a losing record, 6 playoff appearances, 5 division championships, 3 playoff wins, 1 Super Bowl appearance, 0 Super Bowl wins. That sums it up right there, right? Now, here I think is one of the key quotes from Ted Phillips in this press conference. Quote, "We have gotten the quarterback situation right. No. Have we won enough games? No. But everything else is there. Really?
Those are the two most important things.
Seriously.
It's like
Winning games ain't important, huh?
it's like asking a guy that came home from like a date. Well, how did your date go? Well, I wore cologne and I didn't get the girl. She didn't give me her number. Didn't want to go on a second date, but I got everything else right. Like, well, she didn't want
I
to go on
ordered the pork chop.
Yeah, like you will put cologne on? Like you're an idiot. I summed this up as two Nimrods patted themselves on the back for doing a terrible job.
You know what I think is, in my opinion, the biggest takeaway, the very biggest takeaway from this press conference? I have three, but here I think is the biggest one for me. If any of you who are a Bears fan or follow football, if any of you had any doubt whatsoever that Ted Phillips was involved in football operations, that doubt should be erased. I mean, they spelled it out for you. Ted Phillips is part of all this decision making. He's in a position where he shouldn't be, because Ted Phillips is a businessman. He's a good businessman, but he's not a football guy. If I were just hired to be a fire chief, would I know what I'm doing? Of course not. I could be good at communicating with people, but I'm not a fire chief. I don't know how to properly distinguish flames in a giant burning building. I mean, that's pretty much what Ted Phillips is. Somebody who's been in a job for way too long where he truly isn't in touch with how football is run. And Sean, I think the other biggest takeaway, you could argue this is the biggest one, this team remains to be one of the most out of touch football franchises in existence today.
It's so frustrating. Like their reasoning behind things and the timing of what they're doing and the absolute lies they told was so frustrating. You can't tell me you feel confident in what they were doing, because they've, like, the question was, well, Ryan is 0 for 3 on his swings at getting a quarterback. He missed on Mike Glennon. He missed on Mitchell Trubisky. And he missed on Nick Foles. He's 0 for 3. Why? What is different? Why do they think he's going to get it right? Because it's about to be swing number 4. No matter what they do, it's swing number 4.
And you've already struck out.
Yeah, you're 0 for 3. Why do you think you're going to hit a home run on that fourth one? They had no answer. I mean, if I'm McCaskey and Ted Phillips, and I'm an idiot, and I am deciding what I want to do with these two, Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, my first question to Ryan is, what is your plan to fix the quarterback issue? That's my plan. I need to know, because here's the thing. This isn't just a regular year. Oh man, our GM wasn't very good. We should fire him. Or maybe we give him one more year to see how it goes right. This isn't just a random year. This is a really important year because of the situation they're in. The cap is going down. They are up against the salary cap. They have to make decisions on what to do with their top receiver, who is going to be an unrestricted free agent. You have to figure out the quarterback situation. So you are determining cap space, the cap situation, the quarterback situation, and the wide receiver situation all at the same time. And essentially, the decisions they're making right now aren't only impacting what happens in 2021. They could really put themselves in a position where they're screwing over this team until 2023, 2024, 2025. You know?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. A lot of the misses that we've seen by this team have really set this franchise back.
I mean, let's say he gets his heart set on a quarterback, and he trades into the top 10 to get that quarterback. Those first round draft picks he's giving up, the financial tie to that quarterback, and what if that quarterback fails? Like, those are things that legit he could do and set this franchise back. Like, this is the opportunity where if you are not 100% on board with your GM, you make the change because you're like, you know what? He didn't get it right last time. This isn't like, oh, one more year. And like last year, you could have been like, okay, we'll give him one more year because you're like, all right, the quarterback situation, it's kind of we've got that next year anyway. Our cap problems aren't going to really hit until next year anyway. It's kind of a ride it out year. But this year, you have your cap situation coming to a head right now. You have your wide receiver situation coming to a head right now, and your quarterback situation coming to a head. So there's legit, this is a really critical moment for the Chicago Bears franchise. And if they get it right, this could be a very good team. If they get it wrong, this could be a very bad team. And we're going to be lamenting this regime for decades to come.
Exactly. And if it goes wrong, then like you said, not only will the consequences be bad, but if it goes wrong, we'd all be thinking, this is what we feared. This is what we could see coming. Because right now, it could go either way, but are they going to get the benefit of the doubt? No. When you look at how many misses that we've had, we've mentioned it on the show before, more misses than hits. And those misses were very key spots, including the quarterback. So why would we give them the benefit of the doubt at this point? They haven't really done to earn that yet. And I know we realize that we are not too far removed of being very excited with this group, but we still didn't know much about the group at the time, especially the quarterback, Mitch Trubisky. Now we have a sense of where that all is. And, another thing to keep in mind, too, is that we're pretty much going in a situation where you got like a lame duck situation going on here going into next year. I sometimes I don't think we talk about that enough.
Well, we're assuming it's a lame duck situation. Is they flat out asked Ted Phillips, because the player contracts, we know what those are, but the head coach and the general manager and front office staff, we don't know what those contracts are, how long, how much money. And Hub Arkush was the one asking, and he was like, well, how many years is Ryan Pace's contract? And Ted Phillips wouldn't answer the question. He asked the same question to Ryan Pace. Ryan Pace wouldn't answer the question, which makes me believe that they've gotten extensions and we don't know. Because if you're going in with them, why in the world would you let them go into a lame duck season where they're not under contract?
Right. I mean, how would you attract coordinators, and how would you attract, other coaching members that you're going to have to fill out? We know that we're going to have to fill a new defensive coordinator with Chuck Pagano retiring, and of course, plenty of speculation from people if that was a forced retirement or not. I can't comment on that, and I don't know for sure. I don't want to assume anything.
Is Chuck Pagano, they told him that they're going to fire him, and he's said, I'm just going to retire anyway. And so they were like, well, let's just let him retire and save face. There is no way everybody and their mother, this hockey game, everybody and their mother knew that Chuck Pagano was going to be the scapegoat of this team. And as much as we wanted Pace and Nagy to get fired and to bring in a fresh start here and clean house, is I think the smart fan and the solid money was that it was Chuck Pagano was going to be the scapegoat, and suddenly magically he's retiring. Really? I don't buy it. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. That's fair. I mean, one thing's for sure. I knew Chuck Pagano was going to be the scapegoat. You knew he was going to be the scapegoat. And, you could argue, did he deserve it? And I'm going to say, yeah, I don't think his scheme was working as well as we'd hoped. But yeah, I mean, definitely he was going to be a scapegoat. And, that's the thing. That's what the Bears do. If they, need to make a major change, let's get rid of a coordinator. I think Olin Kreutz today on the Score mentioned 2010 when, the brass got together and they got rid of some coordinators and that was their quote unquote big change. Again, that's what the Bears do. Only make big changes if it's dire circumstances. If you're giving up 50 points in back-to-back games like the end of the Trestman era, that is absolutely desperate, dire circumstances. Or you had the John Fox era completely fall apart a few years ago. Those were dire circumstances. But, their standards are held at mediocrity. They're doing enough to keep them somewhat competitive and people somewhat into it. And, I love how George McCaskey will go around thinking, we have the big fan base and, we have a region and yada, yada. We're getting all this money. Well, George, I think I could say safely, you might not see it through all the dollars because that's really the only thing you want to evaluate the dollars and you want to evaluate all those tailgates you go to during Bears games and normal regular seasons. But what I don't think he truly realizes is the next generation of football fans, even in the Chicagoland area, the interest in the Bears is dying off.
It is.
I swear, man. You go north of Evanston, it's Packer territory.
And why wouldn't it be? They win the division every year. They have a Hall of Fame quarterback for their entire life. They've had nothing but Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And honestly, if you have a team that's, I'm equidistant from Wisconsin and Chicago, why wouldn't I root for the winning team? And I can't blame them. And he doesn't realize this because he's so narrow-sighted with his blinders. He doesn't see. He doesn't realize what a laughing stock he is around. He asks his buddies. It's confirmational bias. Like if he's basically going to his family and his buddies and like, am I doing a good job? Yeah, you are. Of course you are. And then he asks fans, and then, he's asking season ticket holders that recognize him, and they're just like, oh man, I'm talking to the owner of the Bears. And they're not going to say it. But if he could put on what's that show where the boss, undercover boss, like if he could do that and not really, but not with his employees, but with the fans, just undercover and ask him about himself, he's going to get a rude awakening. If he asks national media, what do you think the job I'm doing? Ask local media for their unbiased opinion. A lot of these guys were asking some tough questions, but they were not nearly as tough as I would have asked, because I would have asked and not put a spin on it to not hurt people's feelings. I would have hurt their feelings. Ted, you've been in this job for 21 years and your record is this. How do you not think that's a terrible job with no accountability? Well,
again, it's kind of delusion, really. Ted Phillips is going to sit there. He's thinking, we're making money. I have this high position. That's all that matters. Yeah, sure, we got to address the fans. Some are angry, some are sending angry emails, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go back to doing my job, and we're going to make a shit ton of money, and then that's that. I'll be doing my job.
It's
so
frustrating.
I would love George McCaskey to just drive around in some of the northern Chicago suburbs. I would love him to go to central Illinois, or just some other nearby regions. I mean, you go in those areas, and even here in the Chicagoland area, man, I'll tell you, I walk around my town, and you see a lot of Packers gear around Chicago, especially now. You see a lot of Indianapolis Colts gear, too. You see Tom Brady gear. Patriots. I mean, Tom Brady's got fans everywhere, but you get my point. It's just I don't think Ted Phillips or George McCaskey realize that this fan base is not getting any bigger. It's really not. I will argue that this is a slowly dying fan base, and they're going to need something to save them, because once the generation of the 80s Bears is gone, if nothing gets better, boy, you might lose a generation of Bears fans. There'll always be Bears fans in this city. I'm not saying they're going to totally disappear, but the McCaskies live in this idea that everybody around this region are Bears fans, and I could tell you that's far from the truth. Sean, I have friends my age. They grew up in this city. Their parents are Bears fans. They're Packer fans. Some of my good friends are diehard Chicago-born Packer fans, because they said they'd rather watch Brett Favre as a kid and now rather watch Aaron Rodgers. They don't want to watch the Bears. And if you told that to George McCaskey, he'd probably just brush you off. Oh, you're just being dramatic. You're a fan. What do you know? But that's the truth.
I mean,
I say it every
true.
year. I feel like the population of Packer fans doubles in this city every year.
In of my friends that are just diehard Bears fans, like we're like, I'm a diehard Bears fan, but I'm a realist. Like, I just go into it just like, well, I know by week 5, my hope of winning a Super Bowl is just going to be dashed. I come in September with all the hopes and dreams, and then, it's all dashed. And every year, and it's because we have our greatest quarterback in the history of this franchise is Jay Cutler.
Yep.
We are one of the original
quote?
franchises, and our greatest quarterback of all time was an occasional all-star, not a perennial all-star, he was an occasional Pro Bowler. He was not even all-pro, and he's never going to sniff the Hall of Fame, and yet he's far and away the greatest quarterback we've ever had.
100 years of existence. 100 years.
You just figure just random luck and you'd have a better quarterback situation than that in 100 years.
Yeah, seriously. Seriously. You want to know what quote bothered me the most? And you may know you may be guessing, but I'm just going to read it anyway. I was impressed with both of them this past season, especially during the 6-game losing streak. The fact that our players never gave up is a tribute to the players. It is also indicative of the players that Ryan acquires and the players' regard for Matt as their head coach. They tried to use that 6-game losing streak as coming over adversity. You are in that position because you put yourself in that position by losing.
By bad play, bad coaching, bad roster development, bad player development. It's because you're a bad organization. You made it sound like it was like some curse, some hex on them that they had to overcome. No, this is because they weren't good enough. You're just lucky that you're in the same division as the Lions, who are one of the just god-awful franchises of the league. It's like, like every year the Patriots chalk up their wins versus the Jets. In our division, we're the Jets and the Packers are the Patriots. And whip our ass every year, and they chalk it up as a win. Oh, they're playing. You chalk up 2 wins because they're playing the Jets twice. Like, this is what it is. You know,
And yet you hear all that talk of them taking Packer Week so seriously.
Nick, I want to ask. I wish I could have asked Ted Phillips and George McCaskey from the time that Ryan Pace took over 6 years ago to now. How far has that gap widened between us and the Packers?
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, you could go position by position, and you could chalk up the Packers as being better in almost every position except maybe some defensive players. I mean, let's face it. And you know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because they have Aaron Rodgers and we don't. The most important position on the team.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even funny how far apart they are. You had one small glimpse of thinking maybe you were ahead of the game in 2018 when you beat them to win the division. That was short-lived. That was very, very short-lived. And, you know, if everything's okay, everything's good, you want to keep going, you're proud of what they do, and yet you say how seriously you take Packer Week, you have 4 wins against them since 2009. 4 wins against them in over a decade. And you twice a year for over a decade. 4 wins.
That's pitiful. It's absolutely pitiful.
It's mine. There is nothing honestly more embarrassing than just knowing how much your bitter rival has destroyed you for 30 years. This isn't one bad stretch against them. They have had virtually no success against Green Bay outside maybe a 3-year stretch in the mid-2000s. Outside that, you have had virtually no success against Green Bay. Whether it was Brett Favre, whether it was Aaron Rodgers.
Here's the thing. The first season when Ryan Pace took over, the Bears were in that first season. The Bears were in last place. Ryan Pace's first season, and the Packers were 10-6 and second in the division. And now the Bears are a 500 team, and the Green Bay Packers are probably the favorites to go to the Super Bowl for the NFC. So just compare yourself with that one team as a marker of where you've come along. Sure, you've pulled yourself out of where you were because you were in a real bad situation and you just went into mediocrity. And the Packers went from mediocrity to Super Bowl contender. Like, that's the difference. That's where we want to be. Is have a sense of what your standards are. They couldn't define what it is that they're trying to do, and they couldn't define what those goals are. They don't have a defined goal. How are you supposed to judge if you're getting to those goals if you can't define them? Just arbitrary? Well, we feel like we had a good conversation and we feel like everyone's going to do well. That's just not good enough. And damn it, is Malcolm Subban terrible.
This is going to be a long hockey season. Ooh.
We are on pace right now to lose 9-0.
Oh. Jeez.
Yeah, so it's if you can't even define what you're... the one thing I can say about Lovey is when Lovey came aboard, do you remember that first press conference?
I can't really say I do. I was in like 3rd grade.
Okay. He basically said what his goals are, and it was it's like beat the Packers twice, win the division, and win the Super Bowl. Like, he had steps. Like, those were his goals. Those are measurable. You can measure those.
Yeah. And you know what? He in those first few years, he almost fulfilled that, because he actually, early on, he did beat the Packers. You beat them once in 2004. You swept them in 2005. You shut them out in opening week in 2006. You went to a Super Bowl, and you swept them again in 2007. He almost did that. He just needed to win that Super Bowl. And then it all kind of went downhill from there.
Yeah, I mean, at least he had measurable goals. You could say, okay, well, this is what the man said he wants to do, and you can judge him on that. I mean, they say when you're trying to lose weight, or get fit, you have to have goals. Is your goal to, like, make concrete goals? I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, I can measure that. I want to be able to run a mile without stopping. I want to be able to fit into the same pants I wore when I started this job. Like, those are measurable goals. You can do those things. Like, okay, let me try to run the mile. I had to stop and catch a breather. All right, I'm not there yet. Or I can weigh myself on a scale. Yeah, I'm only at 10 pounds lost. Or these jeans almost fit, but not quite. Like, those are measurable goals. When you can't define what your goals are of how you're measuring your general manager and your head coach, you're like, well, we just sort of will talk about it. You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yep.
So that was the first half of the press conference, where we had Ted Phillips and George McCaskey saying that Matt Nagy, that the right decision they felt was not to tear this down, and was to keep the continuity, and
learn as they go, even though he's been in the position for 6 years.
Yeah, and that they were going to let them answer questions. And then so we had the second half of it, where it was Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace answering questions, and it was almost as frustrating as the first half. The first half was just angering. Like, I was literally in a murderous rage. I was shaking with anger, because it was just nothing but lies, and it was the same type of thing you expected from a Garpax press conference.
You know, I think this might be the most infamous Chicago sports news dump since, remember when Garpax, during a Blackhawks playoff game, did that news conference?
Mm-hmm.
Was it you remember what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
they did the end of the year press conference at like 10 o'clock at night during was it a Blackhawks playoff? No, it was a White Sox no-hitter.
Yeah.
Wasn't it a White Sox no-hitter?
Was it? I thought both was going on, or I thought there was a Blackhawks playoff game that night. There could have been a White Sox no-hitter. Who would that have been?
I have to go back and look.
Or was it during Jake Arrieta's no-hitter? Because I thought that was 2016, wasn't it?
I don't know. I have to go back and look. But there was other stuff going on, and they had it. It was at like what, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, during another sporting event.
It was during a time where they knew people were going to be watching other things, so they kind of tried to sweep themselves under the rug.
And it was so they didn't have people watching. They had less people criticizing, and it was like a slimy thing to do. It was such a Garpax thing to do. And this McCaskey Ted Phillips thing is essentially the same thing. Like, they're cowards. They know they're terrible at their jobs. Like, those two are terrible at their jobs. I mean, unless you're saying your job is to make money, which then they're good at their jobs. But if your job as owning a football team is winning football games, those two are terrible at their jobs. And Jesus George, couldn't you have removed that TV box that was behind your desk the whole time? You're going to be on, you're going to be broadcasting on a call. Like, just move that big empty flat screen box. And why do Ryan Pace and Ted Phillips both have a better office than George McCaskey? Looks like a temp office.
Because I'm a man of the people. Okay, I have a question. This is kind of just half kidding. Did George McCaskey really have trouble hearing some of those reporters saying they were breaking up, or did he just try to avoid the questions?
Oh, I asked,
like he just didn't have an answer.
I asked that too. So if you didn't listen to the broadcast there was one time or a couple of times where a reporter would ask a question because they're all on Zoom. And they're like, oh, you were breaking up there. And it was perfectly clear for us.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they were broadcasting the live audio from that reporter and from McCaskey. We got it perfectly fine. So that means George got it perfectly fine too. Because he was perfectly clear. Everybody was perfectly clear. And he's like, well, I don't know. You broke up there. He did it to two different people. And he always blamed them. They were breaking up. He just didn't want to answer questions. And at one point, like, Ted Phillips was like chewing on his fingernails or something. He was doing something with his thumbnails. I'm like, what are you doing, you meat sweat looking weirdo?
Meat sweat.
And but then we get to the Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy portions, and essentially Matt Nagy, I'm sorry, Ryan Pace, I knew he was going to do this, just shut down and was like, well, everything's on the table.
Yeah, how many times did we hear that?
How many times have we heard that in his tenure?
Everything's on the table. Oh, everything's on the table.
And
Everything's on the table, including the gravy and meat sauce.
And he can't even look at the camera. He's always like, it's like, is he scared of looking at it? Like he always looks away or looks down. Just look at the damn camera so we can look in your dumb face. It's just frustrating, you know. He won't admit that he just flat out sucked at evaluating quarterbacks. He wouldn't say what it is that he's done to improve his evaluation techniques of evaluating quarterbacks. You know, they keep talking about the adversity they faced because of COVID-19, but every team did that. Every team has faced adversity because of COVID-19.
How many times was the pandemic mentioned in that press conference? An awful lot. They're acting like they were the only ones being affected by it.
The Denver Broncos got forced to play a game without a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland just won a playoff game with like half of their defensive starters on the COVID list, and they went in there and they won a game against Pittsburgh Steelers. So don't give me we beat adversity. You were like one of the least affected teams.
They shouldn't have even mentioned it. They shouldn't have even mentioned the pandemic. And for that, I mean, other teams had it so much worse. Yes, the Bears did have a few guys have to go on the COVID list, and thank God nobody got severely sick. And yes, I realize you didn't have fans this year, but we didn't have a home field advantage because, you know, the fans weren't in the stands this year. Give me a break. How often do the Bears fans have any difference on the outcome of a game? Clearly not very often.
Yeah, you know what? The Bears fans aren't going out there and missing tackles.
No. They're also not taking shitty care of the grass. Oh, wait, that's the Park District. Because you don't own the stadium.
Yeah, you don't own your stupid stadium. You you were so filthy rich because your team cost $100 when they bought it. $100. Now it's worth like $3.5 billion. And you can't buy your own stadium?
You know, a stadium big enough with the right amenities to host all sorts of events. Look around you. Look at Ford Field. Look at Lucas Oil Stadium. Not only are they beautiful facilities, but they host so many events there. You host Super Bowls. You host NCAA events. You host concerts year-round. Obviously, things are a little different now, but in normal times, Chicago should be a place where a Super Bowl is held. But because your stadium is too small, no roof, and just flat, not good enough, that's never going to happen.
Soldier Field will never have a Super Bowl.
No. I mean, you are one of the 3 largest cities in this country, and you can't or won't have a Super Bowl or host all sorts of other events. You can only really do stuff in the summertime. If you're, you have the Chicago Fire now, good for you, at Soldier Field. You'll have soccer games, okay, but you'll never have the big game. And the big game means a hell of a lot.
But, it was infuriating is Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace just straight up can't tell the truth. Well, we're not going to answer that, or they would just misdirect. I want to know. So Matt Nagy gave up play calling. The offense started scoring 30 points a game. And then they went back to pass happy team and scoring no points. Like, did Matt Nagy take back play calling? I want to know.
There were times it sure looked like it.
It really did. It really did. It looked like that. I want to know what happened. Why is it that your quarterback never developed, never got better? Why is that? Why is it that you game planned for the game plan you wanted rather than for the game plan that your quarterback was able to run? Like, why don't you scheme? It's Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick completely changed that offense because he didn't have Tom Brady and he had Cam Newton. And he completely changed the way that offense was run. Look at what's his name with the Rams. Is Jared Goff got hurt and he completely altered the way he called the game with Wolford. And then he started the playoff game with Wolford and had to completely change it again when that guy got destroyed and became 4 inches shorter because of that neck crunch. And they brought Goff back in and he switched the game plan back. Like, how are other coaches able to do that and Matt Nagy not? And you listen to the national media. Sage Rosenfeld's like, no, Matt Nagy's fault. You listen to just the experts, the NFL pundit experts, former quarterbacks, former coaches, former GMs, they all go, Matt Nagy's the problem. But the Bears can't see that.
Nope. And this is why we are stuck where we are. And it doesn't look like it's going to be letting up anytime soon.
And
because this is how they've operated.
You have Allen Robinson, who publicly said he didn't know who was calling plays.
Seems like a problem, doesn't it?
How is your best offensive player not know who's calling the plays? Why is there not a unified face there? Why? Why? I just don't understand. So, essentially, ownership has said mediocrity is okay. Our general manager says mediocrity is okay. Our head coach, mediocrity is okay. Next year, Do you expect anything better?
Nope. Why should I?
Because here's the situation. Mitchell Trubisky is a free agent. Do you think they're bringing him back?
I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I don't know how many really other options are there.
I can't see
You're not
them.
going to draft someone really high.
I can't see them bringing him back. I just can't. They very well could trade
You're
him.
giving the Bears a lot of credit. You're giving the Bears a lot of credit here.
I mean, I think, does he want to come back here? What kind of money are they going to offer him? Who's going to offer more money? Can the Bears afford to bring him back? As it stands right now, they're over the salary cap. Depending on where the salary cap ends up officially landing, they might be over the cap. They might have to cut players.
You think there's a legitimate chance? You think there's a legitimate chance next year that Nick Foles is going to be our starting quarterback?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they will.
It wouldn't shock.
I think they will draft somebody. Because here has historically
Right, but
been...
even if they draft somebody in their position, they're not going to start next year.
No, so I think it'll be...
I wouldn't think.
Well, I think they might eventually, but I think to start the season, we'll see Nick Foles. Unless somehow we can trade Nick Foles. But here's...
Yeah, good luck with
Here's the reality. Is at the end of the year, Ryan Pace has historically found one position where he's like, we were really bad at that this year. And then he hyper focuses on that one position and to try to correct it finally. And he doesn't deal with the other problems. And last year, the year before was tight ends. Or was it 2 years ago. So you brought in Allen Robinson and what's his name from Atlanta, and you went out and
Taylor Gabriel.
Yeah, and then didn't you draft? That's when you traded up to draft Anthony Miller. He went and attacked that problem, and he didn't address other issues like quarterback or tight end or any of these other positions. Last year was tight end. He was like, we didn't get the production we wanted at tight end. I'm going to fix that problem. So he overpays for Jimmy Graham and uses his very first pick in the draft on Cole Kmet. And so you're like, okay, this year I think it's going to be quarterback. He's going to go out and he's going to hyper focus. And I feel like it's not going to be Mitchell Trubisky. It's going to be, I think he's going to draft somebody. Now that's, I don't know how this is shaking out. If somebody falls a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to move up from 20 to 14, 20 to 15. I don't think he's going to waste the ammunition to trade all the way up to the top 10, but I think he will trade up if he sees there's somebody that dropped that he wants at quarterback. But I think one of their first two picks is going to be a quarterback. And I think they're going to have Nick Foles, and I think they're going to go out and sign a veteran. Now, looking at the list of veterans available, the two biggest names are Fitzmagic and Jameis Winston. So honestly, don't be surprised if your quarterbacks next year are Ryan Fitzpatrick, Nick Foles, and a second round pick.
Okay, I'm going to go kind of meatball here. I don't know if it's meatball, maybe disagree. I don't know. How do I say this delicately? If we had to endure 1 year of Fitzpatrick, I feel like, I don't know, how do I say this? I'm not saying I want him, but if there was some just dude to bring in just to be a placeholder, I feel like Fitzpatrick would at least be able to function. Like, if I had to choose between Fitzpatrick and Nick Foles next year, I'd probably say Fitzpatrick, because you'll either get him being just completely awful or be like ridiculously good week in, week out. But I feel like the ceiling of Fitzpatrick is better than the ceiling that you're going to get as a Bear with Nick Foles.
You know, if for nothing else, the entertainment value. Nick Foles is the least exciting person I've ever met in my whole life. Yeah, I would like to be a team player, and everybody likes me in the locker room, and I try to be a good friend and a good teammate. And Ryan Fitzpatrick shows up dressed as a 70s porn star with sunglasses on and chest hair popping out of, like, this guy is ridiculous. And his stupid big beard.
He's entertaining.
He's going to go out there and he is going to go balls to the wall. He's going to go out there and he's going to try to light it up, and you are not going to win a Super Bowl with him, and they weren't going to win a Super Bowl anyway.
No,
if you're drafting somebody, Ryan Fitzpatrick has proven that he can go sit on the bench, he can come out and start, and he's okay. He knows this is like the end of the road for him. So every paycheck he gets,
he's willing to do what you ask him of.
Because he knows he's at the end of his playing career, and every 1 year contract he gets is just money in the bank and another opportunity for him to go hang out and be in front of the camera for a little bit longer. And I think he would be a solid fit and affordable player. And you can draft somebody, and, because they're not going to be in a position probably to, if they draft somebody, it's probably not going to be somebody that just starts right away. So you could just let them get the practice reps, and Fitzpatrick goes out there. Jameis Winston is a guy that throws for a lot of yards and throws deep. He's been a Pro Bowler, and he's been sitting back up to Drew Brees under Sean Payton. What did he learn there? I'm sure he learned a lot. Teddy Bridgewater learned a lot. And he's not going to break the bank. I just think these are both better options than Nick Foles and better options than Mitchell Trubisky.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And it's kind of sad that's where we're at, where we'd say, I'd like a guy like, for next year, I'd like a guy like Fitzpatrick or Jameis Winston. It's kind of sad we're at that, but it's true. I mean, man, I wish we could somehow channel that playoff Nick Foles, but that's clearly not going to happen. And what we saw from Nick Foles this year, it was just not good. Not good at all. Yeah, he had that comeback against Atlanta, and that was about it. But everything else it was not pleasant to look at. And I think Nick Foles' best days seem to be behind him. And, I'm on team. We got to move on from Mitch. I just think that's where we're going to be. And, yeah, if you're going to draft somebody, your options are throw him into the Bray right away, which I don't think is a good idea. You start Nick Foles because he'll still be under contract, or you bring somebody else in.
And,
those two are your options. For two of them.
I don't know if Mac Jones from Alabama, I don't know if he's going to be an NFL quarterback. Like, he's confident and he makes the throws, but he's just on such a superior team. But I saw a picture of him celebrating after their national championship without a shirt on, and he's got like man boobs and a beer belly. I'm like, all right, I can appreciate this guy. He doesn't look like an NFL player. He looks like He looks like a beer jock.
He'd be a regular Chicago tough guy.
That guy looks like he's been eating Polish sausage.
Drinking lots of beer.
Yeah, I saw that guy eating 3 pizza puffs. He
was over at Al's Beef the other day.
I saw him with his pizza puff dipping it in cheese sauce.
Ew. By the way, fuck you and fuck your pizza. Because you won, my friend.
Oh, man.
You won.
Oh, delicious pizza. Winning pizza.
So how are we going to do this? Does Peace Pizza deliver?
I don't...
Because obviously we have this whole pandemic.
I don't believe they do. I knew that they weren't going to fire him. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl.
Maybe we're going
to... recently. And they fired his ass. And the Bears are like...
Yeah.
The Bears are like, well, we're going to keep our guys. We feel like they did a good job.
You see people get fired a lot less in that profession.
I saw a Bleacher Report reporting, and I don't know how accurate this is. Did you see who is, according to Bleacher Report, the leading candidate for being the Eagles head coach next year?
No, who?
Adam Gase.
Oh, God.
Why? I mean, as if somebody that hates the Eagles, I am all for it. Like, my buddy Matt and I hate the Eagles. We both lived in Philadelphia, and he's a Cowboys fan. I'm a Bears fan, and we just dealt with that nonsense for the entire time we lived there. So we can commiserate about it. And I texted him, and he was just so giddy about it. Like, both of us were just like, that would be amazing. That whole organization would just get set back.
I have had so much strong feelings against the Eagles ever since they beat us a few years ago. I kept thinking to myself, you fuckers did not deserve to win that game.
That stupid team.
And that's another thing that's frustrating too. The last time we had a legitimate shot at a title, Nick Foles beat us.
That's an accurate statement. Well, Cody Parkey beat us.
Yeah. I'm just speaking technically, but yes. Yeah. I mean, really, until we lost, going into that playoff game was like the last time I was truly hyped for the Bears. Because I remember meeting up my friend at the bar. I thought, okay, we're beating the Eagles. You know, they squeaked in. They're not the team they were last year. We're at home. We should beat this team pretty handily. But no. I mean, that was the time where we actually thought that this regime was taking us somewhere. That's where we were really, really hyped about this team. That's when we thought things were changing for the better. It's painful to think about.
Just imagine if after they got announced that they're keeping their job, Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, can you imagine if they don't bring back Cairo Santos?
Well, he was good last year, but we decided to bring in this guy. Who? Adam Vinatieri.
I was trying to model after. I come from the Saints organization. I'm very familiar with a kicker that they had in the practice squad. We felt that he would be a very good fit.
So you got rid of Cairo Santos?
Well, we brought in this guy, and it was a competition, and it was a very tough decision to make, but we went with the Saints organization.
And we removed the goalposts for when Cairo Santos was kicking.
I'm just fed up, and I want to know what the plan is. And I know they can't just blade out like, well, we're going to try to sign this guy and draft this guy. But I just, as a fan, I just want to know what the hell is the plan and where the hell are we going from here?
Pretty much the way I see it is we're going nowhere. We're just stuck.
Yeah,
We're stuck.
I can't, like, I'm trying to honestly is what is going to make this team better. And I've been arguing with fans online in different places where they're just like, Mitch or Nick Foles could totally do it if you just add, get some early round offensive lineman picks. I'm going to tell you, before this season started, so in 2020, the Bears brought in 2 first-round tackles. Guess what? Didn't help. Jermaine Ifedi and Jason Spriggs were both first-round tackles, and they were both terrible. So, you know what? Early round offensive lineman, it does. My thing is, if you are terrible at evaluating talent and you're terrible at player development, you're going to fail at it no matter who you draft. If you are good at player evaluation and player development, let me go back here. If you are terrible at player evaluation and player development, you're going to be a terrible team. If you're good at player evaluation and bad at player development, you are going to be hit or miss. And I think that's kind of where the Bears are. They get some good hits and some big misses. But there's teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers that are good at player development and player evaluation, and they're able to develop players that maybe otherwise would have been misses, and they're able to coax a decent performance out of them, and because of coaching and player development. And that's what the Bears are missing. So, I mean, Trubisky was a miss, but maybe with the right coaching, they could have gotten serviceable talent out of him, but they didn't. You've had some big whiffs in your player. You traded up to get Anthony Miller, and you never got he's probably played his very last game as a Bear, and you never got what you expected out of him. Kevin White, I believe he was the very first player drafted by Ryan Pace, and he was a giant flop.
Yes, he was.
And even when he was healthy, a lot of it was injuries, so he never was fully healthy, but when he was healthy, other teams gave him shots, and he never amounted to anything. So you traded up for Leonard Floyd, and you ended up not signing him after his rookie year and not even giving him the 5th-year option. So it's
and now he's owning it in Los Angeles.
Yeah, with one of your former defensive coaches as the defensive coordinator. So there's just so much stupidness with this team, and I just don't know how you trust them to keep going here. Like, what is it that they did that to warrant this? And I don't know. I honestly, I'm not saying that if you put me in that job, I would do a great job, but I'm fully able to admit that I can't. But I don't know. I can't honestly think of what the rational plan would be to make this team successful next year.
It's hard when you're stuck with a lot of crap and that you don't have any real direction, and you are trying to put trust in the same brass that has unfortunately missed on a lot. I mean, it's not like you have a ton of cap space. It's not like you have a slew of draft picks. You don't have either.
Yeah, it's, you have 8 draft picks. I think you have one in every round and then an extra later round one. But, you
don't have the riches like some teams have that have made deals and gotten draft picks or built them up over the years.
Yeah, you don't have like 2 or 3 first round picks or multiple second round picks. So, you are limited what you can do, and your picks you're in the 20th place because you made the playoffs. So honestly, you would have been better off not making the playoffs. You probably would have moved up 4 or 5 slots. So it's getting the opportunity to get your ass kicked on Nickelodeon.
Congratulations, Bears. You're the first ever team to get your ass kicked on Nickelodeon. How do you feel?
It's funny, that was the highest rated program on Nickelodeon in like half a decade.
Yeah, well, the shows ain't what they used to be on Nickelodeon.
But, what do you do? So, you could draft a quarterback, but are they going to be somebody that steps in day one and makes an impact? Probably not. Is a veteran quarterback that's available? Is that the answer? Are they going to try to trade? Are they going to try to trade for quarterback? The prospects of Deshaun Watson or Dak Prescott, get those out of your head. It's really, if you're trading for somebody, it's probably Carson Wentz or Teddy Bridgewater. Those are the guys that you would be trading for. Those are in your price range and wheelhouse. And those aren't game changers for you either.
Probably not.
So don't get those dreams of Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, believe me, I'm not.
Yeah, can you imagine if they were able to get Deshaun Watson and bring back Allen Robinson?
Imagine if they were a good team.
And here's the thing too, is so Chuck Pagano is gone now. You've got to replace defensive coordinator. And here's the thing with that. You have a lame duck general manager and a lame duck head coach. How are you going to attract top talent when they know it's probably a 1-year gig?
That's what I'm saying, man. The lame duck status is going to hurt you, I think. I mean, unless you are able to just really convince somebody, that's going to be a factor, I think. And considering how many other teams are looking for coaches, they're probably going to look and say, hey, look at the opportunity that this team is building or that team is building. They're drafting some guys. They got a new coach, a new regime. I want to be part of that. Not this stuck in the middle of the road lame duck status sloppy mess.
I mean, I would be absolutely shocked if they don't just promote somebody from within to be the new defensive coordinator. I would be absolutely shocked, because that's pretty much what you can get with your lame duck status. Is they're like, well, we're already under contract, so you're probably looking at the safeties coach Sean Desai. That's a possibility. You're looking at maybe Ted Monachino, your outside linebackers coach. Jay Rogers, your defensive line coach. That would be my money. Jay Rogers.
How exciting.
Yeah, those are your most likely candidates to be your next defensive coordinator.
Let's kidnap Vic Fangio.
I mean, I would say had Vic Fangio gotten fired, I wouldn't have been surprised to see him come back. Because that's a guy well, you know what? I was there. He can take a 1-year gig and just keep moving on, or he could retire after that, or whatever he wanted to do. But younger guys like the Hunger guys, why in the world would they take that 1-year gig?
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't either. I would wait. I would wait until that right opportunity.
And no, we are not bringing back Lovie Smith as a defensive coordinator. No.
Yeah, that would be the dumbest thing.
Holy crap, man. Blackhawks are terrible.
They're so bad.
Whoo, boy. This is going to be a long year.
Don't worry though. Jeremy Colleton got an extension, so
Right after Stan Bowman got one.
So, yeah, that's where we are with this Bears press conference. Is we got fed garbage. We know it's going to be another year at least of shittiness, and I just hope. My biggest fear is that Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy know that they are on real thin ice, and they are going to throw everything against the wall to try to save their jobs. And it's going on the Ryan Pace part. It's going to involve borrowing from the future financial cap situation to bring in players now. So they are going to do back-ended contracts, contracts where most of the money is guaranteed, so they can spread out the cap hit. It's going to be $1 million base salary this year, and then balloon up in years 2 and 3. It's going to be things like that, and really screw up the financial cap situation of us for the next 2-3 years. And it's all going to be for naught because we don't have a quarterback. That's my big fear. Then we're stuck in a shitty situation until 2024, 2025 before we are out of it. Maybe longer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like you're going to say, all we have to do is survive next year and then maybe the year after that. No, the consequences could last a while. It's really scary to think about.
Yep. If you're setting if Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy suck next year, which I don't have any reason to think that they won't, when they get fired and they bring in somebody else, you are not putting them in a position to be able to make a difference. You look at when they bring in new leadership for Jacksonville. Sure, they are terrible. They were a bad team this year, but you know what? They're going to get the number 1 overall pick and bring in a generational talent quarterback, and they've got like $70 million to spend. Those are things somebody can build on. If you fire a general manager and he's got you in a cap pickle and you still don't have a quarterback, and like those are not things that is not setting somebody up. And if you're trying to attract the top talent to be your next general manager, your next head coach, if they're getting courted by multiple teams, why would they choose you over another team that has better draft picks, has better quarterback position, has more money to spend? If you're a general manager candidate, of course you're going to want to go where you have the most tools to do a good job.
Yeah. But you know what? It's okay because we got such a great culture.
Yeah.
We got a culture that is good at everything except winning games. Everything else is there. There's so much accountability, and everything is on the table.
Everything is on the table. I don't know what everything is, but it's on the table.
Is it turkey? I don't know. Is it pizza? I don't know. It might be, but I think Alex spit in it. It says for Sean. I saw him spit and defecate in it.
Some guy in a Bills jersey had it first.
Bleh. Bleh. That's what that conference was. It was just continuous Bills fan puke. Before we go, I was doing a little doodle while we were talking because sometimes I like to doodle while I think. I want to send you this little caricature I did of Matt Nagy, and I just want your reaction on the show. Like, don't even describe it. I just want to hear. I just want your reaction. I'm going to text it to you right now.
Can you email it to me? I don't have my phone on me.
Oh, of course. Okay.
Let me message you my email address.
Okay. It's not really a caricature. It's just a little doodle. And it's not like insulting or anything. Like it's not like grotesque or insulting. It's just a little doodle of him.
Do you think the Blackhawks score in this game?
I think they might score one like garbage time goal at the end where like Tampa Bay's just kind of phoned it in and they're just kind of, giving up. That's that's how I see it. All right. Let's see here. You know what else is kind of sad to think about is the fact that right now the Bulls, because baseball season hasn't started yet, the Bulls might be like the most interesting team right now in the city in terms of winter sports, and they're still a ways away from contending.
You're starting to see some good things.
You are. I mean, I'll give them that. You are.
You can see the light is starting to turn on these players, and that Billy Donovan's coaching is starting to take effect. So I think you're going to see a different Bulls team by the end of the season. But
I think you will too. I mean, look, they hung it. They almost beat the Lakers.
They did. So.
And I think Patrick Williams, I think he's legit.
I think he is too. It'll be interesting to see where he finally grades out with everybody in that draft, because Lonzo looks so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, he is legit. But
this might end up being a better draft class than people gave credit to. It's very early on, but some of these guys that were drafted higher up, they could be legitimate players. I take it you saw it.
So I opened up this doodle. It's just the vacant look on the face.
Exactly. It's just a straight-faced Matt Nagy look.
It is so Matt Nagy. Just like confused. Oh my God. The forehead lines.
Tried to be as detailed as I could.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, this press conference was so infuriating. It was so infuriating. I don't even know how to describe it. I was literally shaking with anger. Luckily, a bunch of my meetings at work got canceled, so I had some time to not, be on a call and be civil with people, because I probably would have snapped at somebody just out of sheer anger from this press conference. And it was like 90 minutes. And they only let like 6 people ask questions. There was a lot of people that just, I don't know if they were not invited or if, like, I don't know, but they only let certain people ask questions. And, those people tried to ask tough but fair questions. I wish they would have asked tough, mean questions that hurt people's feelings. And I guess they can't really, because
so you wanted them to go roll the punches. Okay, I see.
I wanted them to go full claws, Wolverine claws out, and go for the jugular. But I guess, when you're beholden to a job and you got to answer to them, like, why did the Bears no longer allow us to be at their games anymore? What did you do? Like, I guess as a fan, I don't have to worry about that. And what are they going to do? Come after this podcast? Oh boy. before Ryan Pace.
I do not appreciate the way those Swerski sports people talked about us.
Yeah, before Ryan Pace came around, the podcast used to get allowed to go to the training camp as media and interview players, and then Ryan Pace took that away. Another one of his bad decisions. Boom, roasted, dummy.
Man, you are not holding back.
No, I'm angry. Like I just want my football team to be competitive. I get winning a Super Bowl is real hard, and there's some luck involved, and there's some magic that goes into it. But being a competitive team, you look at it. The competitive teams, the Rams are a competitive team. The Buccaneers are a competitive team. The Saints, the Packers, the Browns, the Bills, the Ravens, the Chiefs. Those are all competitive teams. Only one of them is going to win a Super Bowl. Only one of them. I want to be at least one of those teams that's in the top 10 conversation where they're like, this is a legit team, and if they get the right matchup, they could win. I don't think that's too much to ask, and we're just, we did lose 6 in a row, but we started 5-1. So you got to give us credit for that.
Yeah, but they had to come over so much adversity thanks to their own 6-game losing streak for them to make the playoffs. And by make the playoffs, you mean backing into an expanded roster or expanded playoff roster because of COVID-19. I just, we'll see where this goes from here. And I actually talked to Brad from Over the Cap today, and he said he would like to come on the podcast and give a deep dive into the Bears cap situation in one of our coming episodes. So that would be nice. I'm a absolutely.
I'm a cap, I like to dabble in the cap, but I want to see somebody that just can deep dive into it and be able to talk about, how converting signing bonus to roster bonuses and how they can, finagle cap situation and really give us a deep dive of how we could bring in a quarterback. Like, could we afford a Deshaun Watson if we could trade for him and still bring back Allen Robinson? Can we do those things?
Yeah, no, that'll be interesting to get his opinion on.
Yeah. And I reached out to John Shoop, former Bears offensive coordinator John Shoop, to see if he wanted to come on the show and talk football. I don't know if I'll get a response, but I at least reached out.
Yeah, you won't know until you ask.
Yeah. He's a high school teacher now.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So he's not even a football coach anymore. Maybe he's a high school football coach, but yeah.
Wonder what he teaches.
I don't know. History, I think.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
I do like that subject.
It would be nice to hear from a former terrible Bears offensive coordinator. I mean, to his credit, the quarterback situation he had was brutal. But I told him I would like to hear about his thoughts about how you win in today's football without a high caliber quarterback, or can you? And we'll see what he says.
Yeah, that'd be a good question to ask. Yeah.
Because he was as an offensive coordinator for one of the 32 NFL teams with a terrible quarterback situation. So he probably has a very sore spot type answer, I'm sure.
I'm sure, yes.
I feel bad for Bill Lazor. He's really saddled with shitty quarterbacks. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about with this stupid press conference that was for stupid
No,
people?
I think I've said my main points, and yeah.
I'm sure I'm going to wake up
That's
in the
all I
middle of the
got.
night and be like, man, I forgot to rant about this. It's going to stick in my craw until the next show.
Yeah, right.
But
That always seems to happen when something big happens.
yeah. So on the next episode, we will have a full regular episode where we will talk White Sox and their big signing. We'll talk about how bad these Blackhawks are and you know, the growth and growing pains of the Bulls.
Yeah, we
but
need to talk some Bulls. It's been a little while.
It's been a bit, but we just needed, this press conference was so angering that I think we needed to just vent. I think you guys probably needed a vent too.
Yeah.
But thank you guys
Absolutely.
so much for listening. I think this is going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn app, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Share this podcast with your friends. It's how we grow the show. And thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing